Hi, we'll discuss three type of presentation graphs with respect to three stakeholders or players: the designer, the reader, and the data. These three player interaction make classifying the graphs and presentation into three types: informative graph, persuasive graph, and visual art. We'll discuss all these three with respect to these three stakeholders. Informative graphs or presentation. An informative visualization preliminary serves the relationship between the reader and data. It is neutral presentation of the fact of the data in such a way it will educate the reader. Its main focus on this type of presentations are the reader. Reader has to understand what content in the data, what information there in the data. So in general, the informative presentations are covers the broad data set, almost the full data set or whatever available under the scenario, and it is make the presentation to meaningful way in a consumable form for the reader. So the reader has to fully understand the content. That is the main aim of informative graphs. The second type is persuasive graph. So it is between the relation between designer and the reader. So there is no data here playing. Of course, we will present the data, but the main focus is between designer and reader. It is useful when the designer interested to change the reader's mind about something. He want to convince something on the reader on the perspective of something about data, about the information content of the data. Under the case, the designer will carefully select the data informations and present in a form it will convince the reader whatever the designer interested to convince. So here represents very specific point of view what the designer interested, and it is meant for change the opinion or action part of the reader. So the data associated with the presentation is specifically chosen by the designer to support his point of view, and he is going to be carefully put the data into the visual form to convince the reader mind. This is called as persuasive type of presentation. And third category, visual art. It is between designer and the data. Here no role of reader. It is between the designer and the data. It is unidirectional encoding of information. That means the information content is only understandable by the designer, not the reader. Reader doesn't have any play, so he can just see the visualization and enjoy something on that. That's it. So maybe he can interpret some information, but the designer point of view, he is not designing the content for understanding the reader. He can use any type of encoding. So his intention is to merely translate the data into visual form. He is not going to be convinced to anyone. He is not going to be convey some information using the graph. Here merely translate the data into visual form, it to translate into a new medium and make it a beautiful way of presentation. That's it. There is no intention of making the reader to understand, extract some information from the content.